Welcome. Come in. Don't be scared. At least, not yet. The ceremony is about to begin. Manor House has opened its very first fraternity chapter, and you're just in time for the pledge's initiation. Don't worry, we're a non-hazing fraternity. We prefer old-school rituals like torture and sacrifice. Or else our Greek name wouldn't be Alpha Beta Die. But first, in tonight's Frenzied Fright Fest, we're gonna meet a group of pledges who are doing their own fraternity initiation. So grab your bell-bottom jeans. We're traveling back in time to 1974, where the Schlitz beer flows, the bitchin' 8-track plays, and an urban legend is about to come alive. Gather round. Look into the light. Look. Look deep. Open your imagination and listen to the story called Lumphead Road.
Sure, Uncle Billy was right. Joining Zeta Alpha Theta would build me lifelong connections, but that wasn't why I wanted to join. It was the frat parties. The first 2 hours were everything I dreamed of. Plenty of foxy chicks to dance with, and all the beer I could drink. But then somebody turned off the music, and things got down to what passes for business in a frat house. Hazing the pledges. But before that came the toast. Some from guys so drunk I could barely understand them. Once that was out of the way, President Eric Trebner took the floor.
Say goodbye to these pledges forever, because the next time you see Sean, Martin, and Randy, they won't be pledges anymore. They'll be Zetas, class of 1974.
A roar of approval rattled the house as the three of us followed Eric outside and down a narrow driveway.
It'll be easy. All you have to do is bring back the dog, and you're in.
He raised a red plastic cup to his lips as two other Zetas stepped around the red brick corner, beer sloshing. One was Colin, the freckled-faced redhead, who'd made the toast about bros before hoes. The other a tall string bean guy with pork chop sideburns. As one, they tipped back their beers and burped. Stereo. Besides the beer, the guy with the sideburns was also carrying a plastic trash bag, which he passed to Randy, the little chubster pledge.
At least let us take a shovel. Some gloves?
Before anyone could answer, the door we'd come out of slammed open, and a big bear of a guy staggered out the door, picked out a healthy-looking azalea bush, and started to pee. Ignoring the gushing stream beside him, the freckled-faced guy shook his head.
Sorry, all you can take is the bag.
Be happy. 10 years ago you wouldn't have got that.
As if planned, the three Zetas saluted, turned, and headed off toward the back of the house. Impressive synchronization for a bunch of half-lit frat boys. At least we were taking Sean's car and not mine. A good-looking jock type, Sean had been the only one dumb enough to drive to the initiation party. I tossed my cup into the bushes and trailed Sean and Randy to the parking lot. As it turns out, my Uncle Billy had been a Zeta too. Warned about the dog thing, I left my old Vega at home. Sure, it was a tuna can, but hauling around a stinking dog carcass sure wasn't going to improve it. Even though Sean's Chevelle was tons better than my car, it was nowhere close to new. After a few whiny cranks, the V8 roared to life, and Sean maneuvered it out into the street.
Anybody know the area?
In the back seat, Randy, a Pillsbury doughboy with black Brillo pad hair, shook his head.
I'm new in town. How about you, Martin?
Just been here a week.
Here are the directions Eric gave me.
Okay, Lumphead Road. Dumb name for a street if you ask me.
Weren't you listening to what Eric told us? Lumphead Road is just what the locals call it. Its real name is Pennington, but he said there won't be any markers. Looks like we missed the first turn.
Thanks for pointing that out, Randy.
Geez, Martin, you lost us already?
He reached for the map, so I slid it over to my right leg, out of everybody's reach. I got this. Just turn left at the next street. The route took us on a zigzag path out of the city, past a field of cows, and into the redwoods, but never far from the coastline. Kind of fun since Sean had a new 8-track player. We blasted the Allman Brothers the whole way. As we closed in on our destination, a thick fog began to roll in, giving everything a creepy Wolfman movie feeling. Sean turned on the windshield wipers, and they slogged back and forth to the music. When a narrow rust-covered bridge appeared in front of us, I snapped on the overhead light to check the directions.
We make a left just after.
Shit, man. What'd you do, memorize the thing? Sean downshifted, and we rumbled across the bridge. A white haze covered any water that might have been flowing beneath it. After a few seconds, a gravel drive came into view on our left. There! That's our next turn. On the stump of a dead redwood, someone had nailed a hunk of plywood the size of a license plate. Sloppy and uneven, the letters looked like a kid had painted them, or some retard.
Lumphead Road. Stay out.
I grinned and pointed it out to Randy. You said there wouldn't be any signs.
Not me. That was Eric. Eric said there hasn't been a real sign for years. No houses either. Just trees and some old abandoned orphanage from the 40s.
Yak, yak, yak. I imagine a little nerd sitting in the front row of Professor Eric's classroom, his hand constantly raised.
Okay, so now what?
I turned and looked at Randy. Well?
The old orphanage is down at the end, and the dead dog's supposed to be right out front. Eric said we can't miss it.
The road hadn't been patched in at least 20 years. Like a one-car funeral procession, the Chevelle crawled down the road at 5 miles per hour. Any faster, and the potholes would have bounced us around like popcorn. And if the road wasn't bad enough, the fog was ridiculous. I could make out moss-crusted fencing on either side, but beyond that, nothing. For all I knew, a dozen Bigfoots were lined up 10 feet away. We edged our way through the white cloud with Sean stooped over the wheel and Randy's head bobbing between the seats. Pretty soon, I was sitting forward too. My old man was a cop, and I could hear his words. A fellow with any sense would have stayed home. Whatever. If I'd listened to him, I'd still be weighing nails at that stupid Ace Hardware back in Elk Grove. I took another drag off my cigarette and forced myself to sit back. I had forgotten most of what Eric told us earlier that night, but Randy hadn't. As we putted along, he repeated the story, low and solemn, like we were Boy Scouts sitting around a campfire.
According to Eric, the road was originally named after Dr. Charles Pennington, the guy who built the orphanage back in the 1940s. But it was shut down sometime in the 60s when the doctor was murdered by his patients. Turns out he's been experimenting on some of the orphans, changed them into deformed freaks. After a while, they rose up and they bashed the guy's head in before running off to live in the forest.
I turned to look at Randy, cigarette dangling from my lips. Yeah, I remember now. What'd Eric call him?
Lumpheads.
Oh, I get it. Lumphead Road.
Duh.
Folks who live near here have seen them, wandering through their property, stealing chickens. They even attacked a guy once. And they're fast, too. Chase down jackrabbits like they're turtles. And not just the original lumpheads either. They've been breeding.
Give me a break, that's just bullshit the Zetas made up to spook us.
I fanned Randy's lame fairy tale away. Sean's right. Nobody can catch a jackrabbit. I tried once, and I'm fast. Played cornerback in high school, for Christ's sake. I took another puff from my cigarette and made a special effort to face Randy so I could blow the smoke into his face. Nah, that's just hazing bullshit.
Look out!
As if it had been dropped there by a giant, a brick wall suddenly appeared in the car's headlights. I gripped the dash with both hands. Sean slammed on the brakes, and we pitched forward as the car skidded to a stop and stalled. Holy crap! The wall, 10 feet tall and less than a foot from the bumper, was all I could see. Vines had taken over most of it, but a huge brass nameplate told us we were in the right place. Pennington Orphanage. Randy had slumped between the seats due to the sudden stop, and him being such a dork. Worried he might have broken Sean's awesome 8-track player, I shoved him off and checked the device for damage.
Sorry, guys. Guess I didn't see the road bend with all this fog. Let's back this sucker up and go find Lassie.
After a few cranks, the car sputtered to life, and Sean pulled into the driveway a few yards away. The headlights gave us a hazy view of a lumpy parking lot choked with weeds. Back when the orphanage was in business, it might have held at least 50 cars. Now the only things parking in that mess would be a few lizards, if that. On the far side of the lot, the dilapidated building loomed over everything. All sharp edges and busted-out windows, it glared down at us with 20 rectangular eyes, each blacker than the next. Below all the windows, crumbling brick steps led to an open area in front of where the main doors had once stood, long ago swapped out for 2 warped sheets of graffiti-scrawled plywood.
What's that?
Randy's fingers zipped forward between the seats, freezing above the gear shift. At the top of the crumbling staircase, a dark shape bent over something smaller, like Dracula bending over a victim. It scuttled off as soon as the car's lights hit it. What the hell? Was that a wolf?
More likely just another dog.
He nudged the Chevelle closer to the steps, about 20 feet from the dead mutt. Leave the lights on. Sean nodded and shut off the engine. Then he reached across me to open the glove compartment. What I saw there made my jaw drop. Sitting on top of some old receipts was a nickel-plated .38 revolver, bright and shiny under the tiny glove compartment bulb. Ignoring the gun, Sean dug his hand beneath the papers and pulled out a flashlight. When he saw the way I eyed the pistol, he chuckled.
Dad makes me carry it. Doesn't want the Zodiac killer to get me if the car breaks down.
Maybe we should...
Hey, it was just a dog.
When he saw how disappointed I was, he grinned.
Sorry, man, but it's loaded and guns make me nervous. Like I said, it was my dad's idea.
What a wimp. I mean, what kind of guy doesn't like shooting at stuff? We piled out of the car and climbed the steps. Somewhere in the dark, waves slammed against rocks. As Eric had promised, there lay the carcass. From the looks of it, whatever we'd scared off had spent some quality time with the dead pooch. Its belly had been torn out, leaving a shaggy, blood-crusted pile of legs, head, and tail. Like a TV detective, Randy bent over the body.
Oh, poor guy. Looks like a mix between a wolfhound and some kind of sheepdog.
A sickly, sweet smell rose up to meet us, and my lips curled back in disgust. Looks like a chunk of old shag carpet to me. We're lucky the thing ate half of it. Mutt wouldn't have fit in the bag otherwise.
Let's pick this thing up and get out of here.
Fine with me. I'm ready.
Sure he was. He had the clean job. If Sean was cool with handling a rotting carcass, great. But I wasn't. When I didn't rush to grab the dog's feet, he frowned up at me, a blood-caked paw clutched in each hand.
Come on, Martin, pick him up.
Me? I can't.
It won't bite, just take its feet.
I can't do it, man. It reeks. You don't want me Ralphing in your car, do you?
That's okay, Martin. You can hold the bag.
My one semester of high school drama class had just paid off. Sean took hold of the hind legs, Randy the front. With half the guts gone, all that held the dog together was a stretch of skin and fur. It stripped away from the pavement with a sticky, sucking sound, and for a second, I thought Randy would puke right there.
Breathe through your mouth.
They just slid the dog's hindquarters into the bag when a deep, ball-shriveling howl cut through the fog. We froze, all eyes on the forest.
Maybe the other dog doesn't like us taking its dinner?
I thought of the .38 going to waste back in the car. Anxious to get going, we shoved what was left of the hound into the garbage bag. The carcass slid to the bottom with a squishy plop. Another howl. This time, the sound echoed off the side of the building. It was circling us.
Let's move.
An excellent idea. Wolfhounds are huge dogs, and even though this one was ripped to hell, it still had to weigh a good 80 pounds. Hands cradling the bottom, Randy and Sean hefted the bag, its disgusting contents stretching the plastic in all directions.
Martin, open the trunk.
He didn't have to tell me twice. I ran to the car, yanked the keys from the ignition, and raced to the back. Which key?
The round one.
I fingered through the 20-odd keys. What was this guy, a janitor? They reached me just as I swung the trunk open. After a few pushes, we stuffed the bag inside. Okay, let's get... Randy grabbed my shoulder. This time, it wasn't a howl. It was footsteps. Heart pounding, I expected to see a big German shepherd, or maybe even a wolf. What we saw was 10 times scarier. The creature shambled around the side of the building, arms thrashing. A lumpy gourd covered with patches of stringy black hair took the place of a head. But what got me most were its black and rotting hands. Were the Zeta stories really true? A ragged shirt and pants, splattered with who knows what, flapped in the breeze as the thing lurched toward us. What the fuck?
They're real!
Randy, get in the car.
Idiot that he was, Randy stayed put, pinned to the spot like a fat beetle. I'd have left him there, but not Sean. He grabbed the doofus and dragged him over to the driver's side. By the time Randy had flopped into the back, I was already in my seat. Sean jumped in. We slammed the door locks and stared out the front window, chests heaving. Not 30 feet away, the creature moved down the stairs leading from the building with a step, drag, like a kid towing a sledgehammer. It grinned at us with red lips, stretched wide across pointy, blood-soaked teeth. Sean shined his flashlight out the back.
Oh my God, there's two.
A few yards away, another creature lurched toward us, across the parking lot.
Start the car!
Sean stabbed the key into the ignition. The engine gave a half crank and sputtered as the headlights dimmed, then blinked out. Dead.
Damn it, why did I leave the lights on?
Not ready to die, I flipped open the glove compartment. Sean grabbed my arm.
Martin, wait.
What are you doing?
I grabbed the .38 and flung open the door. protecting myself. At the sight of the gun, the parking lot monster froze, hands raised in front of its face.
No!
Screw him! I shot. The stink of cordite filled my nose as the creature dropped to its knees, its filthy hands clutching the red stain on its shoulder. Funny how holding a gun can wash away all your fear. With one down, I swung around to blast the other guy. It must have been faking the limp because now the thing was taking the orphanage steps 3 at a time. I raced after it. Die! That one hit the building. A ricochet off the pavement as I reached the top step. Again, I could hear my dad. Who do you think you are, Wild Bill Hickok? I stopped, set my feet, and took aim. Even though the lumphead had almost reached the front of the building, my next shot caught him in the leg. He skidded across the concrete like a frozen turkey. With both lumpheads down, Sean and Randy crawled out of the car. They gaped at me, eyes wide. To them, I was Superman. I blew on the gun barrel and waved them over. Come on, let's go see this guy up close. Like ducklings behind their mama, they followed me to the spot where I dropped my last target. The thing had pulled itself up against the building, its hair flapping in the breeze like raggedy hunks of yarn. At the sight of my raised gun, 2 bloody hands flew up.
Don't shoot!
The 3 of us stared in amazement. Like some kind of freaky ventriloquist act, its lips had never moved. Why was that? And how come it sounded like... Uh-oh. I held my breath as the creature pulled at the rubbery skin on its throat. With one easy upward motion, it revealed a sweaty but human face. Easy to recognize, since we'd seen it barely an hour ago.
It's me, Colin, from the frat house.
Oh, shit. The freckled-faced guy. Shit.
Colin?
But then who's the other guy?
At that moment, a red Mustang fishtailed into the parking lot. It slammed to a stop beside my first victim, and Zeta President Eric Trebner leaped out.
What the fuck did you do, Martin? It was just a prank, part of the hazing.
I didn't know. I tossed the pistol aside, and it skittered off into the weeds. A million thoughts clogged my brain. What would my dad say? Uncle Billy? Oh my God, the cops! I gaped as Randy bandaged Colin's leg with a torn piece of lumphead costume. I'd have stayed there all night if Sean hadn't dragged me across the parking lot toward Eric and the guy I'd shot in the shoulder. Eric pulled the rubber mask from the guy's head, shouting,
Doug, wake up!
It was the frat boy with the pork chop sideburns. When he opened his eyes, everyone let out a sigh of relief. Then they gave me the stink eye. Sean and Randy thought they were real too. How was I supposed to?
Shut up! We've got to get these guys to the hospital. Sean, help me lift Doug into the car.
He gave me a hard shove.
You, go help Randy get Colin into the Chevelle.
No good. The battery's dead. Leaving the headlights on drained it. Why are you looking at me?
Enough! We'll pile everyone into the Mustang.
All of us? I dragged my fingers through my hair. But how we gonna fit? Instead of answering, Eric barreled past me, and with Sean's help, they lifted Doug into the back seat. Not looking for any more trouble, I hoofed it back to Randy. Together we raised Freckles to his feet, dragged him down the steps to the Mustang, and stuffed him in beside Sideburns. What a mess. Lucky for me, neither of the fake lumpheads looked like they were going to die anytime soon. I was about to slide in between them when Eric shoved me away.
No, that's Randy's spot.
Fine. I clomped over to the passenger side. Since Sean had already filled that seat, I hustled back to Eric. What about me? Eric slid behind the wheel, his lips pressed together in a sneer.
If I wasn't in such a hurry, I'd beat the shit out of you right now, Martin.
Who are you to judge me anyway? You guys killed a dog for this stupid prank.
It was already dead, stupid. Doug found it on the side of the road.
Oh.
Don't worry. We'll be back once we drop these guys off. And find some jumper cables.
With that, he slammed the door and pulled off into the fog, leaving me nothing but the pounding waves for company. Great. I stared up at the huge rundown orphanage. So many windows. The place had been creepy enough before. Alone, it scared the crap out of me. I stomped up and down the parking lot, cussing out Eric, Sean, and every guy who'd ever joined a fraternity. Could things get any worse? As if answering my question, a misty rain began to fall. I snapped my down jacket all the way to my neck and stuffed my hands into my pockets. What now? Time to take a raging piss, that's what now. And what better target than the side of Sean's car? I headed over. Halfway there, I stumbled over a clunk of broken asphalt and picked it up. I was seriously considering busting out Sean's windshield when a deafening growl burst from the forest. If a lion could have sex with a cement mixer, that's what their kids would sound like. God, I had to pee. The asphalt slid from my fingers. There I stood in the middle of that empty parking lot, the last pin in the lane. All of a sudden, Sean Chevelle sounded really good. I shot toward it, happy the windshield was still in one piece. That's when I spotted the third lumphead. It came sprinting out of the forest. Unlike the other two, this one was gigantic. It raced toward me across the dead grass, its chest and knees covered in mud. No cheetah, but doing a decent clip. I wondered all over again if the stories were true. With my heart beating through my chest, I yanked on the Chevelle's chrome door handle. Locked! Probably Eric's idea. Now what? The orphanage? No. The gun! I hunched across the parking lot, eyes catching on anything shiny. Gum wrappers, broken glass. God, did Eric take the pistol too? I considered outrunning it. Then I remembered what Randy had said about lumpheads being able to catch jackrabbits. What if this guy was only in first gear? Fuck running. Where was that gun? My breath came in ragged bursts. Footsteps pounded the pavement behind me. Find it! Find it! Find it! There, in that patch of nettles. I threw myself on it like a dog on meat, ignoring the zillion tiny needles stabbing at my fingers. But before I could grip the trigger, the creature was on me. It ripped the .38 from my hands, threw me to the ground, and straddled my belly, forcing the air out. Claws tore up my jacket, scraped at my throat. I could barely see through all the tears.
Hey, asshole. Why you trying to shoot me?
Holy crap! Fooled again? The thing tore off its muddy mask and slapped me across the face with it.
I heard gunshots. Was that you?
The stench of stale beer wafted down on me from its fat, bearded face, and I remembered who he was. The big, bear-like guy in the flower bed. The one pissing on the azaleas. The warmth of my pee must have soaked through to him, because he scrambled to his feet. When he caught a look at the front of my pants, his hairy face twisted into a combination of, oh my God, and what the fuck.
Jesus, you pissed yourself.
Thanks for pointing that out. I got up and refilled my lungs, hands on my knees. A perfect position for a look at the giant wet spot on my new corduroys. Could things get any worse? The bear guy pulled off his rubber monster hands and flapped them at the empty parking lot.
So what happened? Where's everybody else?
Gone, I mumbled as piss dripped down my leg and into my new Adidas. Something happened. Eric. My stomach gave an unexpected shudder, and I barfed up the beer and Fritos I downed back at the frat house 100 years earlier. Before I could finish, the bear grabbed my shoulder and shook me hard enough to add vomit to my already piss-stained pants.
What do you mean something happened?
That's when he spotted Sideburns' blood a few feet away. The next thing I knew, he was dragging me toward the evidence.
What the fuck is that?
He shoved my head down so it dangled over the blood, still shiny and fresh. That? I searched for an answer that wouldn't get my teeth knocked out. Randy?
Who's Randy?
The guy with the Brillo bad hair. He thought your buddies were real, so he pulled out the gun and...
Holy shit, are they dead?
No, just wounded. Sean let his car battery die, so when there wasn't enough room for everybody in Eric's car, I volunteered to stay back. They're on their way to the hospital now. Guess with all the drama, they forgot about you, big guy. Why didn't you come out with the other two?
Oh, yeah. Must have drank too much beer. Got turned around in the fog. Lost really fell down.
He motioned at the mud frosting his chest. Just then, a loud bang made us jump. We turned toward the building, 10 yards away. The big plywood sheet that had covered the front door now lay flat on the concrete walkway. I must have looked freaked because the bear chuckled.
Calm down, little man. The wind blew it down, that's all.
Okay, but shouldn't it have been nailed tight? I peered back at the big square hole and gasped. A dark shape filled the doorway. Even though I knew I wouldn't like the answer, I had to ask. That's not another Zeta, is it?
No.
As the thing stepped out into the moonlight, I knew this one was the real deal. A sly grin spread across the lumphead's red clown lips as it ambled down the steps. Its tennis ball-sized eyes narrowed on me, and lumpheads could catch jackrabbits. Well, I was no rabbit, but neither was the guy next to me. I darted toward the gate. For a while, the bear kept up with me. For a while. No, I didn't have to be faster than a jackrabbit. I just had to be faster than the other guy.
So who do you think won the foot race between Martin and the big fella? Seems both of them forgot the saying, bros before monsters. I wonder how our own pledges are doing right now. Now they know why we call it Hell Week. I hope you enjoyed tonight's tale. Until the next one, won't you stay the night?